87% of realtors get into the business and get out of the business in 2 years. That doesn't exist in our world.
We have massive visions around growing our businesses, and we are always looking to add talent to our world. We do everything in our power to ensure the people we surround ourselves with defy the odds, get into production, and build massive lives for themselves.
If you are a realtor looking to get into the business, we have a blueprint for success.
With locations all across Canada, reach out to us. Let's talk about partnership and opportunities. We are looking forward to it. Welcome back, Sales Beast listeners. We're here today for another exciting episode. And today we're welcoming back our business partner, our leader, Sandy Mackay. Sandy, nice to see you again. How are you?
Thanks. Happy to be here and doing great. How are you guys?
Doing well. Yeah. So we brought Sandy on for a reason. Sandy's a guy that's really impacted Anna's life, say. Anna, do you agree?
Of course, I would agree. And I'm sure he's impacted your life as well.
In a massive way, probably more than anyone on this planet. And Sandy's always, he placed a huge emphasis on allowing me to grow, prosper. You've opened my mind to wealth building. And when I first met you, I didn't know why you cared about my wealth. So I could always understand why you care about your own wealth, but you always seem to put my wealth before yours. And over the years, shared some insights into why you've done that for me and countless other people within our organization and in your life. So we just wanted to talk to you about why you place so much emphasis on growing others and helping them build massive wealth for themselves and their families.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that goes back to the Zig Ziglar quote, right? You help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything you want. Don't remember where I heard that first, but it was a long time ago, and easier said than done, I think, for most people, and actually staying true to that with all the different distractions and temptation out there in the world. However, the more you can, keep that in mind and focus on that, I think that it totally is true. Not always necessarily true instantly. I think sometimes, having that mindset through life, you can maybe get screwed over the odd time, have a couple rough outings here and there just because other people don't necessarily think like that. However, in the long run, you do more of that, the more good it's going to come back to you, and it's going to just snowball and grow really big. So I think that's been my focus for a while, or maybe forever, in business world, and just with the people that we get into business with, and certainly has built some good things for us collectively, all of us, I think, on this call. And that's, I think, a really important mindset for any salesperson, any business owner, anyone in life, really. Certainly in business, but absolutely in personal life, it's the same thing lives true.
For sure. But is it fair to say it's a skill? Because when I met you 5 years ago, being around you impacted the way I live my life and allowed me to make more money. But I've noticed with you over the years, you've become a lot more purposeful with it and put certain tools in place that have truly helped me. Can you talk about some of the tools you use to help myself, Anna, and all the agents within our system build their wealth?
Yeah, I think, is it a skill? Yes. It's also a mindset in the beginning, and then definitely some skills you can build around it. And I've had certainly people that have helped me learn this in the first place. Like, I didn't just wake out of bed one day and think this was the way to go through life. I certainly had other mentors and people that have helped me consider this and then really buy into it and believe in it. And so, there's a lot of people that I owe credit to in regards to this too. And a lot of it's been through the Keller Williams world and real estate in general. I think the real estate world has opened my mind up to a lot of this. And from Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first book to get my mind thinking a little differently. And how important building wealth was, and how, when I say building wealth, financial wealth, and how we can do that. Certainly wealth is a lot more than just financial wealth, but the financial side of it is one that most people are attracted to in the beginning. Yeah, we've built lots of good tools around that. I think Keller Williams has helped me really. If it's not giving me the tools, it's helped me develop some of our own too, just with the mindset and the tools around it. We've talked about the path of money, which is a big one, which kind of shows you generally. We can go through that probably on this and just show exactly how building passive income works. Because building wealth is not having a great salary. That's totally not wealth. That's just active income. To me, building wealth is freedom and what that looks like, and that can be financial freedom. It's also like time freedom. We talk about time, health, relationships, purpose. Those are the kind of 5 pillars of freedom for me that I like to focus on. I think that's wealth, having freedom in all those areas. But for the financial side of it and building that passive income that helps you create leverage and freedom in those other areas, that path of money is a great diagram. We'll talk about it, the mindset. I think I'll pull up one of those charts, the stratum capability that we've looked at before, that kind of can go into a bit about the mindset around it and how to think about that. Because it's a very, very obvious once you see it and you kind of hear it, to really probably look back on your life, and people listening can look back at their life and go, oh, that makes sense why I make no money or why I make, I have multiple passive income streams. It's just all goes down to the mindset of how you think about money.
Perfect. So maybe why don't we walk through the path of money first? Because I really want to dig deep on that and maybe some truth and myths that maybe you've learned throughout your own wealth building journey. And likewise, Mike, we can probably make it more of a conversation to kind of bring out what we believe wealth building to be and what it can look like for anybody listening to the call. So for those watching on YouTube, obviously you can see the screen. If you're not watching on YouTube and you're just listening, we'll put the link in the description, and it'll also be on our website for you to download this diagram.
Yeah. So, this is ultimately how you build passive income, and it shows you how money flows in life and how it works. So obviously, like I said, the goal is to build passive income that funds your life. That's kind of how you build financial freedom. And that can be, we have some other tools around this. I don't think we'll get to them, but we have some budget and financial freedom tools that we look over with everyone too. And the initial goal is to just get that financial security. And for most people, that's actually very achievable for everybody, no matter how much your income is and what your active income looks like. Everyone can get to any of these points. It's not that difficult at all, actually, to get to financial security once you understand how money works and you start to utilize it as a tool that it can be. But then there's also a few other levels of that, like financial freedom, financial vitality, financial, figuring the exact words of it. But there's a great book if you want to learn more about it. The Money book by Tony Robbins really talks about the 5 levels of financial freedom. And the last one's absolute financial freedom, where you can just kind of do whatever you want and have every luxury in the world covered through passive income and not through active income. And so in order to do that, we have to understand how money works and how to generate passive income for yourselves. Because there's 2 types of income earning here. You can see at the top here, there's you working for money and human capital, and there's your money working for you. You working for money has a very finite, there's a limit to that, right? You can't, someone said, I've heard in the last couple of weeks, actually, don't cheat on your time. You can cheat on your money can cheat for you. Other people that are working on your behalf can cheat for you. They can work harder. Don't make yourself be the one working harder just to try and make more money. Working harder has a limit. Your money working and your people working on your behalf, or your businesses working on your behalf, there's no necessarily limit to that. So, when you look at this chart, you working for money is one piece of it, but certainly you want to work more so on the right side of that, on the capital assets. So you want to build more capital assets to work for you. So either one spits out cash flow, and then you're going to have 4 different ways that you can utilize that cash flow. When you look at those 4 ways here, we have spending, we have donating, we have holding, we have investing. Spending is really, really easy. Everyone's amazing at that. We live in the capitalistic society that we live in. It's super easy to spend money, and there's a million different people trying to get you to do it at any given moment. So we know how to do that. The other 2 that are fairly easy to understand too is donating money. A lot of people are good at that. Holding money, saving it. A lot of us have been trained how to do that to some extent. It's a little bit harder to do, but we understand the concept. And then investing, which is why it's a different color on this sheet, because it's the one that's really complicated. Not everyone fully understands it. There's a million different people trying to tell you how to do it. And reality is that there is no way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it and multiple opportunities out there. And then so how the heck do we choose which one is the right one for us? There's no real answer to that necessarily. Everyone's going to be a little different. But when you go to invest money, there's kind of 2 basic options there. There's lending it out, or there's purchasing assets with it and owning something. And then there's 2 basic positions from there. There's the passive side where you're not doing much work at all for it. It's more just put your money to work for you. And then there's the active side where, you're putting money into it maybe, but you're also actively working towards it and putting your time into it day to day. So the active side, could be, you can see the 2 sides there, lending or owning. So it could be owner financing, private lending, real estate, building a real estate business. There's work there to put into it. But ultimately you're building a business that's going to spit out financial returns for you beyond just your salary there, but actual profits. And same on the passive side. So less control over it. Not necessarily my favorite side to be on in many cases, although still a valid and good one to be on. Does spit out profits, and you can utilize that to build more profits. So stocks, REITs, mutual funds, any sort of lending money to bonds, money markets, etc. So from there, the biggest piece of it is the next thing. Once you get that money out of it, what do you do with it? Because a lot of people also don't do this next part, is they don't now reinvest. And when you reinvest is the real key, because then you start compounding that interest that you've earned, or compounding those profits. And when you start to look at that and reinvesting it, that's the real key, because it just compounds like crazy, and building up of passive income really gets put on steroids. So I think I've explained most of that. I don't know if you guys had any more comments or pieces I missed.
Yeah, I just, I wanted to comment on, you mentioned investing and how you have a million different people telling you a million different ways to do it. And it's tough to know who's giving you the correct information. I was reading this book. It's called The Dundee Investor. You guys should check it out. When I was off on my leave when my son was being born. I was reading that book and a number of others. I read one on Warren Buffett, and all these like, super investors, your so-called value investors, it's called shameless cloning. So they all look at each other, and I guess in the stock market, anytime one of these big funds invests in something, they have to make it public information every quarter. So all of these guys rush to see what investments the others have made, and they just rip off and duplicate what these other people have done. And I look at our path. Sandy, you got the idea of investing in Hamilton and doing these buy around refis from Loeffler, and it was passed down to me. And now people in my world are shamelessly cloning what I do, but in reality, it wasn't my idea. It came from someone far down the line. And I just think there's so much value in seeking someone out that's already been successful.
That's the thing.
And investing and entering their lives so you can just observe what they do.
That's the thing too. I was going to mention, like, I know, like people in government and like high priority positions, like all of the investing that they do is typically public because they have to register any investments that they own. So like, if you want to follow what the market's doing, you can just look at what, the governors are doing in the US or like the high level government people. And that's more obviously on the passive side, but similar to you, it's shameless cloning and just following in the footsteps of success.
Yeah. I think as realtors, we're so fortunate too, because there's so many realtors that are investors also. We're exposed to so many investors. Like over my 4 or 5 years as a realtor, I've seen so many different strategies. And now I have my menu of investment strategies, and I can just pick and choose which one I like based on what's worked for clients of mine.
I mean, there's one thing about, I've spent a lot of time on the active side in my career, just building up real estate businesses or investment portfolios of real estate through active earning it. Like we've raised a lot of money and brought in financial partners. A lot of times that's a great way to do it. And it also takes a lot of time, right? I talked about earlier, not having to work, not trying to cheat with your time, but cheating with other people's time or money, or other people's money, maybe. I've done a lot of what it's kind of just the way I've gone to do it. And I don't regret it. But as you start to go and build up more of this, you really realize the fact of cheating with your time becomes really draining and not really needed over time. And that's where you kind of got to look at it and go, well, how can I make my money just work better for me and not have to just use my time all the time for it? And that's finding someone and copying them is great. I also like to ideally control as much of it as possible. Like putting too much money on the left side there where you're not really controlling much of it, find is a bit risky. A lot of people spend so much time researching and trying to figure out all the best stock tips and all that stuff. I mean, it's a lot of work to figure that out. And ultimately there's a whole bunch of like bots and things like that out there that are always making the move like way faster than you ever will. So the odds of actually hitting it big with something like that is pretty low unless you're spending every second of your day in that space. So I like to just stick in what you know, right? I mean, that's why I do a lot of real estate investing and generally don't get too involved in much else because I don't really know much else and I'm not going to spend time to figure it out, at least not right now. So I'd also just say that just keep in the area that you know. You can diversify. Everyone talks about diversifying. You can diversify within the field that you know. It doesn't mean you need to diversify into like a million different niches.
For sure. Now, what are maybe some truths or myths that you've learned around money and like the wealth building path, or even just the path of money that we see here throughout the past couple of years, and especially as you are now building your own wealth, building other people's wealth, and then teaching about it?
Some of the myths, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's a myth really, but getting rich quick is pretty much impossible. The quicker you can understand if that happens, then that's just a lot of luck and, that's okay. But I wouldn't be looking to do that. Anytime you're looking at something with a long-term outlook is generally the best way to do it. Any version of, and I've tried versions of getting rich quick and thinking I was going to make money within a few months or a year or whatever. Generally, those don't work out, or they're really high risk, or it's just going to be a waste of time. I found that you get in real estate investing, a lot of people look for the home run deals because they have that get rich quick mentality. I want to hit that home run where I make $1 million on the one deal or $100,000, depending on the numbers you're investing in. Those come when you just do a lot of the normal thing. Like you'll find those home run deals when you just do a lot of basic deals where you make, a solid investment and you're not like jumping up and down screaming afterwards, but you're happy with it. And then the market makes you lucky one day and you got it at the right time or it's the right opportunity or whatever, something unique happens and you end up hitting a home run for no real reason, just luck. So I think just avoiding all the shiny object syndrome is really good and not looking for the home run deals all the time. Another one too, I've learned in more recent years was just even around like stock market and anything related to that side of things. It's really hard to actually make any sort of smart move there. I think it's actually a waste of almost everybody's time to be thinking about what to invest in there. You're best to just buy like an index fund, something easy and basic that you don't need to think about. And you're just investing in the economy of the US or the Canada or wherever. Like those are much more basic and easy options on that side. Unless you're going to spend all day researching and figuring that out, like you're going to spend a lot of your time for ultimately what just ends up being gambling gambling, because you have no control over those. You have unless you're in those businesses, you really have no control. So I think buying something that you have control over it is huge, like real estate, at least more control, and just simplifying some of the other stuff, not trying to be an expert if you're not really an expert and spending every day in that.
Well, I think that comes back to like having other people and your money work for you. If you're working too hard for your money and you're trying to diversify into all these different pockets, well, at the end of the day, you might be winning a little bit here and winning a little bit there, but you're not going to be winning across the board versus if you just kind of pour your full focus into one area.
I would say the other one, which is my favorite one right now, is that you have to work really hard to make money, because I think that's a myth and something that everyone wants you to believe. And a lot of people strongly have that belief, which is I think a terrible belief, actually. Not that it's not good to work hard, and you can work hard at times, and it can help you make more money for sure. And it can help you build more wealth and have a great life, but it's not the absolute requirement. There's a whole ton of people out there that do not work overly hard. And as far as like their time, at least, they don't spend 80 hours a week on their business, and yet they're very, very well off financially. I think we talked about this earlier. I know this week or something was, if working hard was the path to making the most money, then there'd be a whole bunch of people in third world countries that are working their ass off, and somehow they're not the richest people in the world. So, that's obviously not the answer. It can be a piece here and there, but it's not the answer. So working smarter is, of course, the answer. And that doesn't mean working more hours. It means building the right team around you, getting people that are smarter than you in your network, leveraging their success and their skill sets, and somehow through that creating a great financial world for yourself. That's way more the answer than it is just working hard yourself.
I 100% agree. And I know we discussed this at the beginning, but it all comes down to mindset and really where you choose to focus and spend your time on. So maybe we can touch on the Stratum capability sheet and what that really means, because I think it does reflect a lot more on people. And ever since you first shared that with us, I really saw the difference in people's mindset. And it is so clear how your mindset does directly impact like where you're going to go in life.
Yeah. And this ties into what I was saying with working hard as well. I mean, this is just a mindset. This is not anything to do with time or how much time you spend working for money. This is all in just how you think about money. So this shows the relationship between how someone thinks about money in terms of how far out they're expecting a return and their annual income. So when you're a level one thinker in this sense, then you're generally thinking about money every week. So everything you spend money on, or everything you go and do, any sort of time you spend on anything, you're expecting a return that week. Level two would be monthly. Most of us in this world are trained to be on that monthly level, which is obviously we can see here a fairly low annual income, 30 to 50K on average. Now this sheet was done in, when did we do this sheet? This was done, I think these numbers would be for 2018 or 19. Not that the annual income would have gone up much, but probably hasn't gone up hardly at all. So it might not matter, but generally we're trained to think monthly, right? So we pay our utility bills, and most of our mortgages payments and things like that are done monthly. A lot of everything in life is monthly, right? So we're trained to think monthly, which is terrible, because when you need to have money in your wallet to make payments every month, now you go out there and you spend any time on anything, and you start to think about how you can pay that bill that month, or all these different monthly payments we have. So you really got to look at how we can get beyond that. How can we think about taking action on things and getting a return that's not necessarily monthly? Maybe it's not in the next few years, maybe it's 10 years, and that's at level 7 there, where you start to think about your day-to-day actions in terms of getting a return 10 years from now, or beyond that. The really, really easy person to mention that is Elon Musk, who we see the things he's doing, right? And he's trying to go to space, and he's building all these insane businesses that nobody ever would think about doing. He's probably well beyond the 10-year outlook on that, and some of those investments he's making with his money or his time. It's one of the reasons why he's however much money he has, I don't know, billions or hundreds of billions or whatever the number is at this point. It's all the foundation of that is his mindset around it, and the fact that he does not need to make money this week, this month, this year, this decade, and that's why he's going to be, or is already, one of the richest people in the world. And most people that are up there in terms of net worth, if we looked at the richest people in the world right now, vast majority, if not all of them, are going to have that foundational mindset that their investments are going to return many, many, many years in the future. Warren Buffett's the same thing, right? You can look at his story. By the time he's in his late 30s, he's only just becoming a millionaire. So all of us on this call, I believe I might be right around his age where he became a millionaire. Everyone else is younger then. And that's, there's some difference in terms of what a millionaire meant, however long ago that was. That might be someone worth 5 million at this point in life. Inflation, I don't know the exact math there, but he wasn't he didn't have $100 million to his name or $1 billion to his name in his late 30s. Came in like his 50s, 60s, 70s, and it just started snowballing like crazy at that point. And he was just patient. And the biggest thing for him is just being patient.
I remember last year we were sitting in a meeting and we were talking about some of the builders that have been around forever, especially like in the York region or Toronto area. And these are such high level thinkers that they're not just thinking about like this year or next year when the next project's going to come out, but now they're thinking about the future. Like they're thinking about the next generation, what's going to happen in 100 years, what developments are going to look like. And obviously this kind of correlates back to this because obviously it's not just about today, but it's about the future.
We talk about one of the core lines that has always stuck with me that I've learned probably in a movie originally, but we talk a lot in Keller Williams world is like be, do, have. In order to have anything that someone has, you first have to be like that person. And so someone who you're talking about there, what are they thinking about day to day? Well, in order to have what they have, you need to be who they are, which means you need to think a lot like they think. And if they're thinking that far in the future, that's how they got to that position in the first place. Generally, it's because of that mindset. So if you don't start with the mindset part, then you're never going to have what someone has unless you build a mindset similar to what they have.
Seems like a common theme around this too is the people that are thinking 10, 15, 30 years out, they don't really care about the money. We've had certain people on this podcast that have the largest, one guy has got one of the largest real estate teams in the world. We've got another guy that's buying 500 apartments or houses a year. We have you, Sandy. I think your goal is probably to build one of the largest real estate companies in the country. None of you guys do it for the money. You're doing it to make a significant change in the industry in which you operate.
Because if you're doing it for the money, then it would stop really, really quick. Relatively quick. I think the money part's actually kind of the easy part, is, and, if someone's sitting there listening to this that is early on and doesn't have much money yet, or is like, struggling or whatever, then it's obviously that's a tough thing to comprehend, but it does not take you very long to build up a decent amount of money, especially if you're in an industry like real estate where the ceiling to achievement is like, there isn't one. Right. And so I think, being patient, sometimes financially being patient can to make whatever we want to think of a pretty significant amount of money. That can only mean like 3, 4, 5 years. Like it doesn't need to be decades. But once you start to make a lot more than the average person, what else do you need? You don't really need tons of money. Like nobody wakes up needing billions of dollars. You don't need that. Not for your own sake. It is pretty easy to spend. I've learned having spouses and stuff where I've seen it's pretty easy to spend money, but billions of dollars is like pretty hard to spend that. So you don't need billions of dollars. You need a good amount of money. And then afterwards it just becomes about, something else. Otherwise you just give up.
I think on that note, I wanted to ask you when you're building the right team to surround yourself, when you're helping others help you, essentially, how do you train them to be smarter around these kind of conversations? How do you train them to just understand how they can help themselves build wealth while also helping you create more human capital?
I think talking about financial freedom a lot, just looking at some of the numbers helps with it because most people realize that it's a lot more achievable than they ever expected. Most people, if we try and calculate someone's financial freedom number and we see that they need, their lifestyle costs X amount of money. And so when we do that, we go, okay, how do we make enough cash so that you can take that chunk of cash and have the passive income from investing that cash, fund your lifestyle? It's usually a lot less than people think, especially for the, financial freedom or financial vitality, some of the financial security, the early phases of financial freedom there. Not a ton of money. Definitely achieve this. Anyone who owns a house in Canada generally is going to achieve that a lot faster, especially if you've owned a house in the last few years. The appreciation alone has really helped us earn some pretty good opportunity there with our financial world. So talking about that, you realize that it's actually within reach, and then it kind of automatically leads to some different conversations. Okay, well, what are we going to do now that we have that money or that we can see the path to that? How can we now talk about what else there is that's important to us? And most people, the money is one thing, but once you start to see that coming into your life, it's other forms of freedom generally. I think that's to me what wealth is. Having time to do what we want to do, and that's different for everybody, but what do we want to do with the time? Do we want to spend it on some sort of a higher purpose? And that's where you start to get into more exciting conversations with people about what they actually want to achieve, and that's a lot more fulfilling is talking about those things. So through training and mindset training, I guess, and conversations, and ultimately you become who you hang around too. So the more people we get around ourselves that are similar, like-minded, just kind of naturally happens.
One thing I always think about, Sandy, so when I got into your world, I was very raw. I had never been exposed to any of this kind of thinking before. When I look at it from your perspective, it was very important that you could get me up and running and thinking this way very quickly, because at that time I was one of your 5 people. I was by your side all day, every day. And if I didn't change my mindset, it would negatively impact you. So I think about that with the people in my world that I'm with every single day. It's pretty important that it's all hands on deck and we're all thinking at a high level about this kind of thing, because if not, it really impacts you.
Answers.
Yeah, I think for that reason, very important who we choose to allow to enter our world.
I think it's super important. Yeah, for sure. And it's super important to keep growing, ourselves in whatever way we want to, but, personally for sure, because there's a whole bunch of lessons to be learned out there. It's like never ending, right? So the more we can grow personally, the more we can infect, or I don't know if that's the right word, but infect others with our good stuff, developments, and they're probably going to do the same and it'll snowball. Yeah. Who you have around you is super important. I really think that there's not that many people out there that have a long-term outlook. Like, this is not all that common for someone to be. That's why there's only one Elon Musk that wants to go to space and do like this. I'm sure there might be a handful of other people out there trying something similar, but we don't know about them. So there's not very many. It's pretty rare, actually. It's hard. The world trains us to, like I said, be in this level 2 or 1 of this chart. So you need to go, it's the same thing in terms of building wealth. Like, you need to go against a lot of the things that you learned as a kid and that the world and governments and banks train us to think like. We need to actually go totally against those in a lot of ways. So that's why most people are never going to do it. All the more reason why you need to find the people that are willing and are open to it, and then bring them around and help them. And, maybe they're already thinking like that, and that's great too, but get them in your world and get rid of the ones that are either unable to shift their mindset or just not open-minded, I guess.
Yeah, or unwilling to really understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And it's so true. Like, just in the past couple of years, I don't know about you, Mike, but my mindset has changed so much from, like you said, being conditioned, like in university, being conditioned all throughout school. Like, this is not something that you're ever taught in high school or university, or probably ever in life, unless you actually come across the right people and the right conversations. So I'm encouraging our listeners, like, if you're listening, if you're watching us live, like, please spend some time reading some of the books that we've mentioned. I think there's such a value in not only doing your research, but also, again, surrounding yourself with the right people.
And there's 2 questions on the bottom there that kind of maybe trigger some thoughts around this for people is what level 7 thinking strategies do you have in your business or in your life? Because there are, if we relate this to a real estate business, there's definitely things that I do and probably all of us do that are not going to take years to return. Like, they're going to get a return that day or that week or that month. Not to say that we should never have those. Those are needed sometimes, especially for you can't just sit and wait forever for some sort of cash flow to come in. You need to fund the next 10 years somehow before waiting for the bigger paydays. But you need to have some version of your business that's helping out with the longer term outlook, right? You need to have something where you're thinking long term. And, for me in our real estate business, that was my podcast originally, was that one thing that I was totally not expecting anything substantial, that week or month or even year to come back on it. But over the next few years, it started, return really well in terms of relationships and opportunities for business. So yeah, it doesn't need to be the whole business, but something in your business or life needs to have that 7+ level outlook or 10+ year outlook. So, if you don't have anything like that currently, what could you start implementing today that might have that longer term outlook? And then who or what do you need in your world to help develop more 7-level strategies? So there's one thing to come up with 1 or 2 on your own. Ultimately, the more people you have around you that are also thinking like this, the more it's just those ideas are going to be a dime a dozen, and they're going to be all over the place. And it's going to be a lot easier to not only think of them, but also act on them and feel supported by the people around you.
Nice.
So sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, it seems as though when you go down this path, the journey you've been on for the last 8 years, if you do it properly, you move people into your world that are going to take care of the short-term return items. So that 1 week return, 1 month, 1 year return. A prime example is 2 people on this call with you right now. One's off in Vaughan managing your brokerage, and one is in Hamilton running the team, which frees up a lot of time for you to think about, what am I going to be doing in 10 years or 4 to 10 years? That seems to be the big secret in all of this. Probably the hardest part. Very few people get to that point.
It's got to be win-win relationships ultimately need to be in place, right? I think the more that you kind of have that awareness that it's got to be a win-win for everyone. Obviously, for either of you to be in business with me at any time, long-term especially, it's got to feel like a win-win at all times. And if not, then, we talk about it and figure it out. And yeah, I think you leverage the pieces that are eventually, ideally, you're going to work on something so much that you've gotten close or you've mastered it. And now, if you want to do that for the rest of your life, fantastic. If you want to go and build something bigger, have more opportunities for everyone, then you leverage that task you were doing to someone else that's capable, and then they master it, and then they leverage it eventually, and they need to work up, and you're just constantly kind of working up together in the opportunities of the world. And that can keep on going forever, basically, if you want it to.
Well, I want to talk about your biggest opportunity that just launched not too long ago. Can you talk a little bit about Freedom Reps and what that is for you and for anybody listening so that they can find out more about how they might be able to get involved?
Yeah, Freedom Reps is our new expansion brand within the realtor world. So it's our platform for helping realtors build amazing teams and amazing businesses for themselves through their teams. And I guess what makes us really unique is we're a fully Canadian version of that. And what we do is help realtor teams across Canada expand their businesses faster, easier, smarter, and avoid a lot of the pain that we've already gone through in building our business and our teams, and leveraging the great team that we have to help them do that. And ultimately, we help them in more than just, realtor and their realtor businesses, but we do help them create a great realtor business for their local business and their local areas. But we also help them, our real mission behind it is to help them build freedom in the areas I mentioned before: freedom of health, money, time, relationships, and purpose. And a lot of that comes down to us having a lot of these systems already built out that they can leverage and not have to spend the next 10 years trying to build out their leverage in their team, but just bolt on to what we have already. And, it's not that different from like a joint venture real estate partnership where someone's bringing money and someone's bringing the actions and time or knowledge. We're very similar to that. We have someone who wants to build a great team, someone who's already got a lot of the team components built, and we're leveraging each other to help that local team build an even bigger, better team, and more profit, more fun, more ease, quicker, and then ultimately more opportunities afterwards too, because they can actually, what we're really helping do is build a sellable asset. So they have a team that's actually something they can retire from one day or sell one day or just automate so that they have full leverage and they can go on and create more opportunities or be involved in more opportunities with us.
So essentially helping somebody run a business like a business. And I think more commonly, like in this industry, I talk to hundreds of realtors a month, maybe more. And I can say like 90% of the realtors I talk to don't even know their profit loss, don't understand what their net income is. And I see a lot of value in what you're doing and bringing freedom to help people really understand how to run a business successfully.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things to distinguish is that we are not a team per se. We kind of feel like a team once you're involved with us, but we're not a team. We are a platform to help teams. And so people don't give up their team to come join us, or they're not, giving up their brand or that sort of thing. They're keeping their own local brand. We're just helping them add fuel to that and help them grow their business and actually make it a proper business so that it's sellable one day. And to me, it's a lot more fun. If there's something like this that existed when I was, 3 or 4 years ago, building up our team, in hindsight, I don't know if I would have made the right move at the time, who knows, but in hindsight would have definitely been a lot easier because it's hard building up realtor business. And there's so much disruption, so many things happening out there. So, when you can leverage a high-minded community and people all gearing towards the same thing or working towards the same thing. And like we talked about, our leadership team can focus on some of the bigger questions and bring those answers to our teams and help them grow faster. That's kind of how that relationship works. And we can all build something bigger and more profitable. Also build more freedom for everyone's life altogether. That's the goal.
Well, I just want to say thank you again for hopping on the podcast with us today. I don't know if Mike has any more questions, but we always like to wrap it up with our final question. Sandy, who do you know that we should have on this podcast?
I think there's lots of people. I'm trying to think who you've already had, though. You've had lots of great people. What episode am I on here? What number are we at?
Close to 50, I want to say, probably.
Close to 50. Okay, cool.
You're like close to 40. I lied. You're going to be like...
I got to come up with people that you don't know. You know a lot of the same people I know.
I know.
Well, you should go find Gary Keller and get him on. That'd be good.
Yes.
Shoot him a quick text. I'm sure he'll respond right away. I do have some people that you should talk to that I could message you afterwards. You've already had Lorraine Jordan on. Mm-hmm. You've already had Dylan Suter on. You've already had Colin Campbell on.
No.
Oh, okay. Get the Sir Colin on. There's a good one.
The Sir Colin on. We're going to get the Sir Colin on.
Yeah. He's got some fun stuff. Just acquired a brokerage. Got his team going. He knows a lot about this same stuff we talked on today. So I'm sure that'll be a good one. And he's got a great accent. Way better than mine.
I'm going to message him right now. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. Any last thoughts that you want to leave us with?
No, I mean, if people want to learn more about Freedom Reps or chat about that, obviously they can connect with me around that. It's pretty easy to find. I think just, as much as everything's so much disruption in the world right now, I think you just really need to look at where you want to be in the next few years. A lot of people spend in realtor world, a lot of people spend a lot of time doing stuff that maybe don't really love. You get really caught up in the whole growth of a business and the awards and all this other crap. And I think a lot of people don't really look at their lifestyle and try and optimize it and think about what it might look at its like peak, at its best level. And I think it's always worth assessing that maybe year to year or quarter to quarter. And there's always a lot of changes. So I think just that's would be my last parting advice would be to just look over your business or your life. And if it's where you're at, where you want to be, perfect. If not, make some changes. Think about how you can reassess it, because there's so many tools and partnerships and things happening right now in the world that could probably help you create an amazing life really fast. You just need to be open to it.